The lore of Bleach is something I've long craved more of, and I was elated to learn of the light novels which satisfy this craving and dive even further into this beautiful and intricate story we've become enveloped with. Through our exploration of Bleach, we've now concluded the manga fully, but there's still so much to cover, particularly the light novels and movies, and with the anime coming back soon as well, there won't be any shortage of Bleach topics for us to dive into. We Do Not Always Love You is a beautiful insight into the world of Bleach 3 years after the defeat of Yhwach, and it covers the very wedding of my own favorite character of this story. Lore, love, celebration, and Rukia Kuchiki. Oh boy, we sure have a lot to talk about. So if you haven't already, please drop a subscription and sit back and relax, because this is my blind review of Bleach. When starting We Do Not Always Love You, I was expecting the main focus to be Rukia and Renji, but instead, Matsubara and Kubo took a different path using the wedding of these two characters to further world build and explore what in the hell has been happening after Yhwach rained terror upon Soul Society. There are 3 distinctive acts of this light novel: the announcement, the marriage registration, and the ceremony, and the focus of the novel switches throughout following different characters as Rukia and Renji go through the wedding procedures. With each individual we follow as the focus changes, we subsequently learn more of these characters who didn't have a ton of spotlight within the Thousand-Year Blood War, which is a great tactic for Matsubara and Kubo to utilize to ensure that everyone's favorite character gets their own development. 3 years after the war, Soul Society had gradually recovered, and with great destruction there subsequently is a great rebirth, particularly in Central 46's antiquated rules being reformed through a new member within Neura. Neura pushed for a new law simplifying the procedure of the court seal, and as a result made it easier to now carry materials from outside Serite, making it possible for people of Rukongai to be utilized as a workforce within Serite. This had a snowball effect. These special personnel record stations also check spiritual power, and those with plenty were extended invitations to the Training Institute for Shinigami. Soul Society, a previous place with vast differences within opportunity and living states, now within this change, it takes a step forward to reform that very concept. It's a really amazing notion that someone young can truly make advances towards the betterment of Soul Society, and really begin to reform Central 46, which had for so long remained the same. This theme of the young now bettering Soul Society is prevalent throughout this novel. With Shunsui now as the Captain Commander, he as well seems more open to change and reformation. Within so much death in the prior war, there is now new life to lead Soul Society towards a better future. With the previous war, clearly the Gotei lost a lot of soldiers, but it's quantified within this novel that half were lost, which leads to the development of the Shinigami apprentice system due to this very shortage. Speaking to these apprentices as a guest lecturer is none other than Izuru, who becomes a brief focus. Izuru in the time after the war had become a giant headline with vast questions about how he was alive, yet simultaneously dead. The Serite communication in which this information was distributed is a really neat concept that's a large focus throughout this novel, and it seems to have all of Soul Society up to speed on current events like Izuru, and is headlined by our man Shuhei. The headlines surrounding Izuru reminded me that to the general public, Izuru and our fellow cast of characters are heroes to the general population of Soul Society, that people look at captains and lieutenants in awe. I hadn't fully considered this notion for quite some time, but seeing it fully displayed with people viewing Izuru as a celebrity of sorts, it reminds me of how big the world is within Soul Society and how much of a prestige these titles are. I found it hilarious what we learn of Mashiro through the discussion following the lecture, that within the invasion, the Vonderreich targeted the dorms, and the students looked out and saw Shinigami wearing masks coming to protect them, that due to the mask they were viewed as superheroes. Little moments like this explore what various characters we didn't see throughout the Thousand-Year Blood War were doing while off-screen during this very intense arc. Due to Kubo stating he'd add more scenes of the anime that didn't occur in the manga, perhaps moments like this with the superheroes will be shown on screen, as in fact they seem to be canon. I found it notable that history was a bit falsified for the average student, telling the public that the Soul King was not murdered and in fact was protected, when in reality the man who waged war on Soul Society now acts as the current Soul King to keep the very world tethered together. As we see, history time and time again is written by the victors, and in order to keep everyone at ease, they hid this information away. I was glad to see this very topic explored and explained, because it was a question of mine after finishing the manga in regards to who would be the Soul King, but with Yuha now serving as the Soul King, the state of death he's in seems ambiguous. I wonder if he'll ever play a role in our story again. There's then some brief spotlight on Yoruichi and even a comical scene where it looks like she was engaging in God knows what with ERHU, but I was surprised to find she lives primarily in Soul Society and she acts now as a professor. I had previously imagined that after the war she'd live with Urahara and perhaps get married, but there isn't anything explicitly said regarding the pair. I'd personally love to see her and Urahara's relationship more fleshed out, but fingers crossed for when I read the next light novel within Can't Fear Your Own World that Kubo will perhaps get to that very topic. The aspect of so many Shinigami now becoming teachers really emphasizes that time has passed, and with the experiences they've all gained, they can now usher in the next generation of Shinigami. Fitting the theme of lieutenants having the spotlight, the focus eventually switches to Nanao, whose nature as a bookworm is explored, and she's joined by Lisa and Momo. The dynamic of Nanao and Lisa appears as one of a younger and older sister. Hell, they both served as vice captains to Shanzui, and they sport a similar demeanor and appearance, so the comparison feels valid. We learn that within each squad there's libraries under management of the particular squad, and the books that the libraries entail are heavily related to the squad's focus, with 4th Division's library having books on healing, the 6th Division's library on noble history and etiquette, and I love this type of world building. Often I'd forget outside of the 4th Division and Squad 12 what each division was really focused on, so it's eye-opening to see the particular focus of the squad affecting even libraries for their respective areas. As we've shifted our focuses thus far, we're eventually brought to the true focus of this light novel, Rukia and Renji, and they invite several of their closest friends, both lieutenant and captain, to a fancy dinner to announce their marriage, which didn't come as a surprise to many of their friends. What did come as a surprise was the fancy location the dinner was held at, courtesy of our man Byakuya, who really fills the role of a big brother ensuring a perfect wedding for his little sister. The wedding to come sets into motion the rest of the light novel moving forward, and their wedding is more than just a wedding. With all the information on the losses suffered and now the slow restoration of Soul Society, this wedding isn't simply a wedding, it's a symbol of hope for everybody, that things are getting better and returning closer to normalcy. That despite grief and pain, love blossomed and flourished. I loved seeing within the wedding announcement party all of their friends getting drunk together and bantering like we've always known them to do. Anytime I can see Ikkaku and Rangiku in a social setting, especially with drinks involved, I'm beyond thrilled because that's where they thrive. With the party concluding, thus ensues a bureaucratic mess for Renji and Rukia, as getting married while both being lieutenants seems to be an exhausting and overwhelming process, which made me genuinely wish for Kirikou to make efforts to change this complicated procedure. I was fascinated by the happenings in the Kuchiki clan mansion, seeing how Byakuya and Rukia live in grandeur, but I was even more entranced by their relationship, which now seems better than ever. Despite Byakuya's initial cold demeanor, this wedding is something he's thrilled for, yet simultaneously saddened by, as I believe all older siblings would be. For all this time they've lived together under the same roof, and now with his younger sister getting married, she'll move out and start a new path. The dichotomy of feelings he has regarding an event like this feels truly human. Byakuya's had one of the best character growth throughout Bleach, going from an antagonist and negligent older brother to now someone we can admire for his leadership and loyalty. It's an amazing thing to see. As Rukia and Renji go throughout the procedures, I was surprised to see Tetsuzaimon as a large focus for several chapters, as he acts as a parental figure for 2 young werewolves, ERHU and Shoma. Upon reading this, I was filled with joy due to Kubo bringing back the werewolf clan, which we saw so little of previously. These 2 brothers were adorable and innocent, and they give Tetsuzaimon a new purpose and reason to smile once more after Komamura's fate. Komamura now living as a wolf behind the hills and unable to speak, the general public was told he was killed in the war, but Komamura still watches over his squad despite his form, and he ushers in the next generation of werewolves into the livelihood of Shinigami. There's a beautiful encounter with both werewolf boys translating Komamura's barks, and they tell Tetsuzaimon to loosen up his shoulders, that he gets far too worked up, and this sentiment is echoed by his lieutenant who tells him he overworks himself and that he's stubborn. Tetsuzaimon, from my perspective, seems to have filled the hole in his heart with putting everything into his captain duties and subsequently neglecting himself and not allowing himself to ever relax. I believe these 2 werewolves now within his squad as apprentices, they'll serve to ease the pain in his heart from Komamura no longer being active in his life as he used to be. He now has a further purpose. Rukia and Renji eventually encounter these 2 werewolves, and my god, I loved seeing Rukia so excited to see these cute kids. She's such a wholesome individual, and she can see within Tetsuzaimon the new look in his eyes due to these very 2 cute children. She could see him truly happy for the first time in a long time. I love the details with chapters like this. I had so many questions on Squad 7 after the Thousand Year Blood War, and so many questions are answered in this light novel regarding all the uncertainties after the conclusion of the manga. As the following chapters switch the focus once more, we're brought to Kiyone and Isane, who now work together in the 4th Division, and they discuss the Shinigami Women's Association's disbandment. That since Yachiro disappeared, the association was temporarily no more. I had no idea Yachiro played such a big role in this organization, and it still breaks my heart knowing she's gone. That the last words Isane heard from Yachiro is that Kenny finally called out to me. I literally have chills saying that, and I can't wait to see that moment animated. With the Shinigami Women's Association gone for the past 3 years, these two sisters now take the first step towards beginning anew with this organization. An entirely wholesome chapter, and it fits the familial theme. This novel really focuses on the rebirth of Soul Society. With so much destroyed, the next generation of Shinigami begin to step up and fill the vacant roles that previous predecessors left. Lieutenants now become captains, and many now teach the next wave of young Shinigami to join in the rebuilding of the famed Gotei 13. Renji and Rukia persist in their ventures within Renji's messy room, and they're given a present from Urahara that in Urahara fashion speaks as a voice recording as he grants them a gift called the Transfer Post Warp Assister, a really neat device that they can move things freely between, similarly to the Tenkai Ketchu from Fate Karakura Town. A really convenient gift, and simultaneously it reminds us just how intelligent Urahara is. Unfortunately, he doesn't make it to the wedding ceremony, but nonetheless, he joins in spirit. It's hilarious with one of the low-ranking Gotei 13 soldiers witnessing Urahara in this fashion. It changes his previous perception of Urahara completely. Urahara to most people within Soul Society is a legend of sorts with a crazy amount of feats that make him almost a deity, but his personality now being seen, it just doesn't match this soldier's preconception of him. Renji and Rukia eventually are prompted on whether Rukia will keep her surname on duty, and I'm truthfully glad she chose to keep it as Kuchiki. Rukia Kuchiki as a name is so iconic that it'd bother me a bit to hear it differently, and as y'all know, I love saying the words Rukia Kuchiki, but more than that, I imagine the pure confusion Rukia would experience being called something differently would be utter chaos. As the couple is told to by Byakuya, they both then announce their marriage ceremony at a captain's meeting, and due to Momo's big mouth and the fellow lieutenants telling everybody, no one is surprised at this news, and as a result of this uncommon occurrence of two lieutenants marrying, Kyoraku plans to let everyone off duty early to experience this wholesome event. The novel then reaches its final act, with Rukia now relaying this information to her best friend within Orihime, and I personally was always under the assumption that Ichigo was her best friend, but after the war efforts, it really seems Orihime clearly became much closer with Rukia than they were previously. Orihime was obviously overwhelmed with emotion at this news, and she cries as usual and were brought up to her life happenings. We learn that after high school she became an employee at a bakery, which fits her character to a T, and she seems to be doing well living on her own. Immediately after both Renji and Rukia leave after relaying the news, Orihime surprisingly calls Ririka, and despite Ririka's apparent annoyance, they're super close friends as well, and I was also genuinely shocked at this. The notion of them developing into good friends, although with a tumultuous dynamic, it was hinted at throughout the story since Ririka was introduced, but seeing it actualized is a genuine treat. The particular reason for this call was for help in developing a wedding gift within a veil that has an embroidery that all of Rukia's friends aid in creating. The embroidery is strawberry flowers, which are Orihime's favorite flowers, meaning happy family and respect and love. This is one of the most wholesome parts of this novel, seeing all our human cast together working on this veil for Rukia to have the best wedding gift possible. Moments like this give me flashbacks to when our story was just beginning, with Rukia acting as a student at our school, Tatsuki now as a sensei, Chad as a boxer, ERHU in medical school, and Ichigo in university as well. We're shown these individuals living normal human lives after everything they've been through. Ichigo as a character always felt so relatable to me because he never desired to be king of anything. Rather, he desired to conquer himself and his demons and protect his friends. After accomplishing that desire, now Ichigo can truly live a normal life. Although, as we know through No Breaths from Hell, he still dabbles in his Soul Reaper duties from time to time. The wedding then takes place at the Kuchiki ceremonial shrine, and as Renji and then eventually Byakuya and Rukia, they three then enter the ceremony. It's a beautiful moment within the story. Our characters are all grown up, and moments like this make me feel so emotional despite it being a fictional story. Symbolically now turning a new leaf in Soul Society, a bastion of hope now found within Rukia and Renji's wedding, our Bleach world finally takes a step forward towards the dawn after a long night. Byakuya's words to Rukia that he wants her to be happy. It's a tearjerker followed by the wedding being completed as Renji and Rukia meet at the altar. Within the after party at Renji's favorite bar, Kyoraku brings Rukia outside to hand her a package, and he tells her this package is from Ukitake. Within it is a captain's Hayori, that before Ukitake died, he said to appoint Rukia as the next captain in his place, knowing he would likely die. Kyoraku was once more entrusted with something, and the individual then passed away. The burden Kyoraku carries is deep, but this moment is a beautiful one, a final parting message and gift from her previous captain. The captain's Hayori Rukia was given was initially meant for Kaien, and now instead for Rukia. The passing of the torch symbolically from two of her mentors, Ukitake and Kaien. It's a poignant notion with Rukia now carrying on the torch of Squad 13 to lead them as a captain. I'm glad to see how she was offered her captainship now fully conveyed. It was absolutely amazing and fitting with Kyoraku being the one to deliver this message to her. As the novel closes out and Renji escorts his human friends out of Soul Society, Renji plays the wingman of the century and pushes Ichigo to reveal his feelings to Orihime. And the final chapter ends with Ichigo hinting at the revelation of his long-lasting feelings towards Orihime. This light novel blew my expectations out of the water. I came in expecting it solely to be about Rukia and Renji's wedding, and although it's a great focus, the events of the wedding are utilized to inform us what happened after the 1,000-Year Blood War, and it enabled tons of characters to be further fleshed out along with the amazing world building of Soul Society. I had a smile on my face throughout this novel, and I'm sure you can hear my smile through this video. Being able to see new hope within a world almost previously destroyed, and the changes that take place during the rebuild of an entire organization, this novel shows that despite loss, the influence of those who departed from our story, they carry on within this world forever. That within death, there is new life, and being able to witness firsthand our allies we've developed such a long history with, now stepping up to the plate, it's a brilliant moment for being a Bleach fan. Now with Rukia married, my heart is forever broken, but similarly to Soul Society, I will heal. If you stuck around this long, please consider dropping a subscription as these videos take a ton of time to create. I honestly can't thank you all enough for your continued support, and I promise content will not be slowing down anytime soon. Similarly to what Rukia said to Ichigo, this isn't goodbye, but see you later. As always, be greedier.